All right. Hello. Good morning. Um, so yeah, um, I'm not like I'm still playing around with this AI stuff and exploring like how you can reliably, how the LLMs can reliably understand the version of dependencies it's using. And it's fun playing around with this at the moment because it's really like how do you most efficiently convert TypeScript definitions into like shorter usage examples that the LLMs can use to understand how to use a dependency. And there's many ways to go about that. So that's a fun like iteration project. But I've also been thinking about React and how we have these tools for state management that that kind of tries to go against the reconciliation loop. Basically, observability. Like React isn't based on observability. It has this reconciliation loop, which is amazing for like UI reconciliation. Like the concept of reconciliation and UI makes a lot of sense. But when you want to write a lot of logic and related to like UI, I mean like state management, that the requirements of like doing that in the reconciliation loop isn't ideal. And then so we built this project called Impact React. Impact React, which basically has, which like conceptually has an observable context. So if you think about this as the actual context, you can see it returns like an object that is exposed on a context provider, but it's not part of the reconciliation loop. So it basically enables observable primitives. But the tricky thing with React is how do you actually do the tracking of accessing those observables? And what I discovered like doing exploring this library is that there's a new keyword coming to JavaScript. It's like in stage 3 called using, and it's part of a concept called explicit resource management or something. And it's the perfect thing for actually tracking access to observable primitives in a component, because there's no like overhead to it except like using the keyword. What I specifically mean here is that there's no higher order component, there's no like special hook or anything like that. You're just consuming the context by using the using keyword, and that triggers the observability or the tracking of the observable primitives. The point here is that this is kind of hard coded to the observable primitives of impact. So the signal primitive and the derived primitive. But I thought we would kind of rip that part out and rather create a generic implementation of an observable context. And what that means is now you can suddenly import, or you can use MobX, for example. So you could basically use MobX the exact same way. And it would like be super simple to implement it. So I don't think the observable context will be something you use directly. It will be something that library authors can use to better implement observable primitives into React. That's the idea. And when I say observable primitives, I mean, like automatic tracking of access. So you could say observable primitives is like something you explicitly subscribe to. But the point here is that it's automatic, right? Whatever you access within the context becomes tracked, and the component will render again if any of those change. Anyway, so we're going to play around with that because I think this will be valuable. And we're going to try to make MobX work as like a proof of concept. But before we do that, I'm just going to check my Slack. Yeah, and then, so let's see, let's go for it. So we have this, let's see, impact So we're gonna just copy all the code. I did play around with it to kind of do some exploration before we dived into it. And the thing so maybe we should draw this first. Xcali draw. Oh, what the hell is this? Technical. Yeah, I'm playing. Oh, yeah, I'm playing around with this. People are different. Yeah, I'm reflecting on like work-life balance as a 40-year-old dad. Yeah, this is actually a good one. I should keep this. Let me copy that and shove that into just 2 seconds. Just gonna make sure I don't share anything I shouldn't share. Oh yeah, okay, let's put that in there. That's fine. Nothing secret there. Anyways, so what we basically gonna do is, so you have like a component here. Wow, that's a big component. Let's see. Component. And then you have like, how should I put this? So you have like the provider, context provider. So that's like a component as well. But that context provider has like a context. Let's make that something else. Let's zoom in a little bit. That's like tied to a context. And the context is really just a value. And the context provider... So this is where I think React made a, dare I say, bad choice in API design. I think a better API, so currently the way you do this, create context, and then that's like null. And then you do like function my context provider. You have to create a component, and then you return like context dot provider, and you give it a value. So there's like many problems with this. Like it has a typing problem because it starts out as null, but the value should always be there, and so on and so on. So I think a much better API for this would be you would do context, or you would say context like this, or like my context, and then you create a context, but you give it a callback, and this returns my value. So what you're basically doing now is that you kind of merge the two concepts. You have merged, you don't have to explicitly create this component. You have the component already, and this is the body of the component. But it returns the value that it exposes on the value, and it automatically has children here. Like it's just an abstraction over this. And now you can just use my context. I think this makes a ton more sense, and you can use like, since it really is the body of the provider component, you can still use like use state in here. Like you can do whatever you want. So I think that's a much better API for context. And then you would of course like use context, and you would do my context. It would still be a context. So we're going to use that API for our thing, but we're going to call it like create observable context and use observable context. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah. And then let's see. Okay, so just to explain like the API, but there are other parts of this as well. So how should we draw this? So it's like inside that thing, but there's some tricky things to having an observable context, because it's gonna run outside the reconciliation loop. So the normal context is tied to the reconciliation loop. And what we're gonna do now, we're gonna say, what are we gonna say? Observable context. an observable context provider. Now, the thing is that this, how should I put this? Maybe we should just use, I think it's easier to explain this with code. So the point is, when you create an observable context, you can't use like the other hooks, right? Because it will only render once, or it will only execute once. And that's when the component mounts. So what you want to do, but what you still want to enable is that you should be able to use other parent observable context. Just like a context, you can use a parent context. You should also be able to use observable context like this, blah, my other context, right? So you should still be able to do that. So you can like compose these observable contexts like in a hierarchy. So for example, you might have a global observable context, and then you might have one for the page and one for a feature, and so on and so on. And they should be able to use each other. But you would never use useState or anything like that. That's the point. Like you should use other observable primitives instead. And to be able to do that, what we have to do is, since all of this is actually exposed through a traditional React context, we need like our own dependency injector. Like if you think about React context, it's really like a dependency injector, but you're kind of just injecting the contents of a component on a value. But we're not gonna inject the contents of a component on a value. We are gonna have these context providers that has a reference to like an observable dependency injector kind of thing. Basically what it means in practice is that it enables this. You can use observable context inside an observable context, and you can use it inside the component. This might sound like it makes it more tricky. It really isn't. I'm just going through like the talking through the implementation details. So this is why it's not like straightforward. The other thing is that we're actually solving here. It's like in a traditional React context, you never know when that context unmounts. And that's such a huge problem that React has, that you don't know when reliably know when components unmount. You can say you can just use a use effect, but in strict mode that will run twice. And with concurrent rendering, it's not, it doesn't work as you expect, and so on and so on. So it's really, really tricky. But with this implementation, we actually have reliable mount and unmount. So in addition to like optionally taking some props here coming from the provider, you should also be able to on cleanup. So that you can run logic when this observable context is basically unmounted. So on unmount or whatever we want to call it. But on cleanup, I think that's better. Anyways, let's just get to the implementation of this, and then we'll talk more about it as we move on. So this is the thing we need to refactor, the store. And let's see, let's make that. So let's see, create store provider. So we don't need these signals, but we do need this one. Let's see. Okay, so what I think we should do, like it should work. Yeah, and instead of this, we're going to use export debugging active false. Oh, export const debugging false. So we're going to allow, I think, like I just realized I have so many times asked myself, like, how do we properly detect the environment for debugging? But why not just expose a debugging object? And then you as a engineer, you can choose when the debugging is active or not. So you would just do like a normal environment check, but you can also do like based on local storage. You might implement like a shortcut to activate the debugging. Like it's so much better, I think. Yeah, so what I was exploring before I decided to do a stream on this is, do we actually need a dependency injector? But I concluded that yes, we do need that. So now it's not like a store container. The container is the dependency injector. I'm just calling it a container. So it's really an observable context container. I'm just wondering, like the problem is terminology here, because what is the context? The context is really the value. Maybe we should just call it a store. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, maybe we should call it observable store container. Because it's very specific to, like, you wouldn't use this for themes, right? It wouldn't be, you would specifically use it for state management. And you would just simplify it. Yeah, maybe we should just do, let's just make it work first without like changing terminology and all of that stuff. So we're gonna call it a store, and we're gonna have this resolvement, but we're not gonna have the global stores. That's the thing we're gonna remove, because that's like specific to impact React, and that just makes it more similar to React. So you have to explicitly provide everything. And then active component observer context. So this one is a little bit tricky, because now impact React is what has this observer context, which is basically what is this observer context? The observer context is, yeah, so observer context is the actual like observing primitive of impact React. So now we don't have a specific observing primitive. So we really just need to know if, so the thing is, if you, so here we are using one store, right? But you might be consuming two stores or two observable contexts. And doing so, you shouldn't create two like tracking mechanisms. There should only be one tracking mechanism, or like one tracker, or whatever you want to call it. And what we have to make sure of is that when we first start tracking, we don't start another tracker, right? So that's basically what this does. But it could just be true or false. We don't really need it to be an actual entity. And then let's see. So this is like, this is the global thing, and I think we should just throw here, because if we don't have a store container, we're pretty much fucked. So let's do this, and if no store container, we're gonna throw a new error. And then resolved store becomes that thing. Yeah, by the way, I have this. We need to remove that. Maybe we should do that. And this shouldn't be here. Let's see, package JSON. No, sorry. Wait. Oh. Oh, this is. Oh, wait. Am I? Wait. Did I just clean? Oh my god. Sorry. I'm changing the wrong file. My bad. Discard changes. Console. That shouldn't be there. Let's do. Let's see. No, remove console. Let's just fix that quickly. Cool. And let's actually work in the correct thing. And this is complaining a bit more because the TS config doesn't allow any, which is fine. We're gonna fix that later. Yeah, and then we have the same. So if no result store, we're gonna throw. So there's no global here. Oh, is this? Oh, I think we're already here. We need to just throw. Yeah. I think so. So we're gonna test this and then see if we need to do anything. But we're also gonna introduce some new things here. So yeah, use context is called conditionally. That's fine. This is a library thing. And then debugging.active. Yeah, so here we go. We are gonna need to start exploring the new stuff. And let's call it create store provider for now. And the interesting thing that we didn't do here is, so the way you would use this is at a low level as a library author, you would do like yeah, my context or my provider, you would do like yeah, so like create store provider or whatever. We're gonna figure that out, and then you typically have like a reference to the actual like store or context that you want. But then we're gonna have a second argument, which is when, so this callback is triggered whenever a component consumes this store. Oh, that's interesting. I don't think it should actually be here. Yeah, no, that doesn't quite make sense, because then it's like linked to when this store is being provided or consumed. We should do a callback. But just as I said, we're not going to create like an observing context or an observing tracker, whatever, for each store or observable context. We're going to create one for each like component consumption. So what I wonder is that maybe it should rather be part of the, so using test equals use, I guess it's use store here. And then like my store, and we should make it part of this one instead. Because it is on the, what the hell? What was that suggestion? It is on the consumption side, right? That's where you want to do the tracking. Yeah, I think that makes more sense. Yeah, I think that makes more sense. And the point is it should take like callback, which is called when, so this callback is called at the point where you consume the actual store. And then that means you can create your tracker and keep a reference to it. And then you can return a callback, which is called when the component has component body has executed. So you can like stop your tracker. And this is what the using keyword does. It just manages that. Yeah. So what you would do as a library author, you would kind of wrap, you would expose your own hook that doesn't have this part. That's like internal. Yes, that's what I want. Okay, so we're gonna explore that now, I think. So we have this use store, we have the store, and then on consume, it doesn't really, just takes a function that returns a function. So what we're going to do here is that we are resolving the actual thing, but instead of like doing all this stuff, we are just going to say, let's see. Yeah. So we do have this debugger. Should the debugging be here? No. Actually, I think we should just drop the debugger here. This is something you would implement in that hook or in that callback, because then you know, you will kind of know what observables has been accessed during the execution of like that callback and the return function, and then you would like create your own debugging experience. So let's just remove that. So what happens here is, instead of us like calling, we're going to say active component observer context is true. And then we're going to call on consume. And that gives us the callback for on consumed. And then we are adding active component observer context is false. We don't have to do this stuff. We need to do that, but then we say on consumed. So this is the thing that handles the using keyword. It basically just, when the component renders, we say on consume, we make active component observer context true. So if there's another store that is used through this hook, this will be true. So it won't go and do it again. Like call on consume, and then when it's done, it calls on consumed. This is exactly what we want. Nice. It's so funny. Like I was in a I tried like playing with this multiple times during the weekend, and I just like I couldn't motivate myself. Even though like I was excited about it, I just sitting down looking at the code, I just couldn't get through it. What I mean to say is that it really helps doing these streams. And this is an API that not even Impact has, at least not officially. Is that all? I think this is actually all of it. So what we can try to do now is we can go in here. Well, we need to activate the, let's see, we need to activate the explicit resource management. So that is Bubble plugin. So let's go in and install that. pm add d. So this is like, it's already part of TypeScript, but it's not part of JavaScript yet. But it will be. Does it say anything about stage 3? What does stage 3? What is stage 3? Yeah, the solution is complete. Have been resolved, including anticipated implementation. Yes, we're basically just waiting for it to be implemented in browsers. That's the thing. So this is definitely coming. And you wouldn't think of it as being the perfect solution for observability. It's actually more to dispose of like database connections and stuff. That's where it's coming from. So it's a very like literally innovative, because innovation means like taking two different concepts and merging them together. I wouldn't say it's like groundbreaking or anything, but like, yeah, by definition, it's innovative. So Bubble plugins. So now we have that on. Let's just restart this just to be sure. Let's see. Yeah, I was just giving a suggestion on. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, so we should be able to just try this now. Like, we don't really have any observable thing, but I think we could like create something silly. So let's create like our my store return foobar, something like that. And then my store provider would be create store provider, my store. And then what we should do is, of course, this is the thing with providers. You have to function app wrapper return my store provider app. And now we should be able to like, yeah, maybe we should I think we can do like a manual observation thing here. Let's try that first. So we're gonna do count here instead. How did we do this? Anyways, we're gonna try it. So using my store equals use store my store, and then we're gonna have this callback thing. Let's just log it for now. And start. Oh, use store. Okay, let's see what's happening here now. How did I, is it plus? Yeah. Oh. Does it work? No. Isn't that typical? What error? I think maybe we have to. What error? Maybe we'll have to. The above error. What error? There's no error here. Let's use the normal. Oh, so, of course. Let's see. We have to do my store count, of course. And let's drop this one for now. There we go. Okay, so now when we render this, it says start end, and that is of course because of strict mode that it runs twice. And then let's see. So what we want to do here, we kind of want to do a tracking thing. So what we could do, and this is quite interesting. So what we kind of could do here is that we could do, we could just have a subscription. So you can imagine like, okay, so we're going to implement this. We're going to do, you know, this makes a lot of sense. Yeah, this does make a lot of sense. So let's create kind of our little abstraction over this. So use custom store. And it would take let's just do T here, store, and we would use store, and we would do the callback thingy, return. What did I do? What did you do? Why is this wrong? Come on. What happened here? Oh, store. Wait a minute. What's happening here? Use custom store. Why is it so angry at me? I don't like this. Did you mean? I'm very confused by this. Why doesn't this work? Hello. What the fuck? So, and then we put a T here. What's this? Why can't I do it? Why can't I use a generic? Why is it giving type errors on generics? Extends. That's weird. Okay. Store? Is it just store? And we're gonna change this. Okay, whatever. And then what we're gonna do is use store, and then we're gonna put this beautiful callback. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna create this little subscription thing. So maybe we could even like make a little class of it. Observable store. Oh, and it would have like a subscribe function, and it would have like a snapshot function. Well, get snapshot, I guess. And it would have like an update. Yeah, no, this is, should I do all this? I just wanna like trigger the subscription when we change something. Maybe we should just try to implement. I should do this. What's a simple way to test this? Oh, I'm getting stuck. So so you would kind of do, okay, so it would be like an observable store. Let's try something. So it will be an observable store, and then oh my god, this is so annoying. I don't have like anything specific in mind. I'm wondering if we should just try and make something work. Do we have like a simple observable primitive? Maybe we could use like a behavior subject from RxJS. But that's weird. Like, that's super weird. That's not what this is for. And that's also what I'm wondering. It's like, it's not like there's so many things you can call an observable. Like, this is really based on like more like signals, where you have global tracking of access to values. It's not for subscription based observables, because then you would like use an effect or use sync external store or something like that. That's like what you use to consume those kinds of things. So it's very specific to global like global tracking observables concepts, like MobX. So it's like but you can use like preact signals with this. You could even use like solid. Maybe that's a thing we can try. Let's see. Solid. What's at the core of solid? So you have create signal, but what does it expose the actual low level tracking things? So you have untrack. So you create signal. That's fine. Split props, use transition, observe. Is it observable? No. I wonder how would you like start tracking? Batch? Where's batch? Hold, executing downstream. Yeah, no. I wonder. Okay, so what we would need access to is like the opposite of untrack. Oh no, not really. Yeah, no, we need access to lower level primitives. Like, we would need access to actually start and stop the tracking. I don't think solid actually exposes that. Or should we just try to make MobX work? Because then we kind of have to, we can just copy some code. You know what? We're just going to try to make MobX work. That's what we're going to do, because that's ultimately the thing we want to do here. So let's install MobX, and then we're going to dive into some MobX source code. MobX. And then we're going to make state equals observable count 0, and then we would really just return, I guess we can just return the state as is. Yeah. Yeah, I like this better. So the thing that we're missing now is, so we can like still consume this count, right? So that works. Yeah, why didn't we just do this? So we can still consume the count, but like nothing happens, of course, when we click it. So let's implement the ability to change it. which means let's just do the traditional thing. Count would be return state.count, and then increase would be state.count plus plus. And the reason we do this getter is because like you need to actually access the count. If you return state.count, you just return the current value of count, which will always be 0. Like this is the same in Svelte. So what we're gonna do is my store.increase. So like this will still fail, of course. Why the hell is this? My store should be provided on the context, but no provider was found. Oh, does it actually have an error? No, it doesn't. Okay. But yeah, it shouldn't like change anything because we're not observing. So now we need to implement observing using our so let's call it const use MobX store. And I think we can do t extends store any store t, and then use store and then we're gonna implement this under the hood. So now we need to actually implement. So we're gonna do use MobX store instead. Now we don't need that here. So this is the beauty of it. So of course this doesn't work still because we haven't started and stopped the tracking. So what we're going to do now is dive into some let's see, git. So let's look at GitHub MobX React Lite. So this has some tracking in it, I think. Let's look at how it does observation. I think it's quite heavy how they do the thing. Yeah, we have to figure out where does it actually do observation. Use observer. Yeah, so reaction tracking ref. So it's creating a reaction. Can we just create a reaction? I think the problem is we might have to go even lower level because everything in MobX is based on wrapping functions, but we're not going to do this here. Yeah, you see this reaction track. But I wonder if reaction has MobX reaction. Does it have more APIs to kind of start and stop the tracking instead of yeah, no, I don't really think you have. So we need to go lower level. We have to look at the implementation of reaction. Hopefully it actually exposes what we need. Maybe it doesn't even do that. Maybe we could even look at auto run. GitHub, MobX. Packages, MobX source. Utils. Where's auto run? Auto run. There we have auto run. Where's that coming from? Export auto run. In this file, auto run. But where is it coming from? Is it destructuring something from internal? Auto run. Wait, where did autorun come from? API? Autorun. Yeah, so this, I'm a little bit afraid that we don't have access to what we need, but let's see how autorun works. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's based on reaction. Okay. What about observe? Thing. Observable. Yeah. Ugh, maybe we don't really have what we need here. I know at some level, like this is split up. It doesn't have to be a callback. Intercept? No, that's something else. Trace? What's trace? Oh, that's... But where is reaction level? Where does it get reaction from? Is that like from internal? Core? Yeah. Okay, so how does reaction work? Okay, internal. Use schedule if you intend to kick off a reaction. So this... but does this use like... tracking context, track the right function? I don't want to do this. Clear observing. But what is this schedule thing? Can we make a reaction run? Run reactions? Oh, that's just to run it. So we basically want, so we want to do this tracking thing, but we want to do this in, so we want to do everything up to this point in like the first function, and then we want to do this in the return function. What is track the right function? What's that? Was that in utils? No. Oh my god. That's from internal. Wait. Track derived function from internal. Oh. Wait. Here? Oh. Oh my god. Where is this? Star from... Maybe we should open this in something else. Track derived. Ah, where is this coming from? Like this could come from anywhere. Ah, this is so annoying. But what's worrying me is like, this is of course all internal. This is not available. Is there a way to make this work? Like, I guess it's still available. Maybe we could like copy this reaction class and create our own. Like, and then just because it just imports from internal, and I guess we can import from internal, right? Yeah, we can import from internal. So what if we just copy this? Yeah, we're gonna do that. So we're gonna copy the and we're gonna create our own reaction. And you might say, why the hell? Why not just use MobX, right? But the point is that MobX React, even MobX React Lite, has these like many different primitives for consuming things, and none of them are good. Like, all of them, higher order components, affects naming of the component. Using a hook is confusing because you're just tracking what's inside the like hook callback, and there's like big discussions on this. This is the only way of consuming observability in React that I think doesn't affect anything. The only thing is that you have to use the using keyword. Like, that's the only thing. But it doesn't affect anything else. It doesn't affect how you name or export your components. It doesn't have any confusion that the tracking scope is only from a callback of a hook. It's like it is the component every time. And then you can argue like, how much does that actually help? Oh, I'm going into call with some colleagues, but I'll be back finishing this shortly.